Here's the truth the show keeps tiptoeing around. Kat isn't dramatic, she's correct. The family's collective amnesia regarding Eva'S history is nothing short of impressive. Having decided that group forgiveness is the new household pastime, they now look genuinely perplexed that Kat, whose life Eva detonated with meticulous intention, fails to burst into song at the sight of their newly canonized saint. This is the sort of revisionism that produces family black sheep. Not rebellion, but the expectation that someone should smile politely while everyone else embraces the person who stabbed them in the front. The attempt to transform Eva into a misunderstood heroine would be almost admirable if it weren't such an insult to continuity. Eva didn't merely slip up. She spent months engineering maximum emotional damage, all while cozying up to Ted and Nicole. Yet suddenly, the narrative insists she's the wounded party, unfairly judged by only one stubborn holdout, Kat, the lone member of the "I refuse to pretend this never happened" club. In any real family, Eva would be greeted not with warm hugs, but with a polite request to stay several zip codes away. And then there is Kat, urged at every turn to rise above, be gracious, and ignore the small detail that Eva slept with her partner. The chorus demanding reconciliation seems baffled that Kat hasn't already sent a fruit basket. The wiser option would be distancing herself entirely and letting her family learn the hard way, preferably without dragging her along for the inevitable fallout. Meanwhile, the show seems determined to distract from its own narrative contortions with a revolving door of new subplots. Nicole edges toward a softening stance on Eva, while simultaneously stepping into a mystery man storyline, complete with elevator entrances dramatic enough to inspire speculation about whether the newcomer is a celebrity cameo or merely filmed as though he should be. Samantha, to her credit, remains one of the few characters willing to tell Kat the truth with elegance rather than exasperation. Though Kat's knack for storming into conversations she hasn't heard and launching unsolicited insults does little to strengthen her case. Around the periphery, more chaos simmers. Madison's simmering resentment toward Chelsea, Isaiah's ex strolling into town, whispered questions about whether Eva and Isaiah have chemistry, and the ongoing comedic tragedy of Bill failing to notice he appears to be actively poisoned. Even the unseen Mrs. Malone has become collateral in viewers' matchmaking fantasies. Through it all, one truth remains. Kat warned them about Eva, and she was correct. The family may insist on unity, but no amount of forced forgiveness can rewrite what actually happened, though the writers seem determined to try. Here's what no one wants to admit about the Kat-Eva feud. The wrong person has been wearing the villain crown this entire time. Eva's great crime, it seems, is participating in an affair with a man who very confidently behaved as though his relationship with Kat had already expired. Tomas was not dragged into this encounter by supernatural forces. He showed up willingly, fully sentient, and yet somehow the outrage manages to fall almost exclusively on Eva. The double standard is practically a supporting character at this point, one that never misses its cue. Samantha, blessedly, is the lone figure willing to intervene with Kat, whose indignation has evolved into a full-time occupation. The hope, naturally, is that Kat might one day disengage from her Eva-centered resentment tour and reclaim a life that does not revolve around her half-sister's existence. Therapy would not be a punishment here, it would be mercy. The emotional stronghold Kat maintains is not sustainable unless the goal is to permanently audition for most miserable lead. Meanwhile, Madison radiates the energy of someone who has spent years in conflict with a mother who may or may not be a masterclass in narcissism. Aunt Melba's sudden emergence, yes, that Melba, only adds to the genealogical gymnastics at play. And then there is Dr. Rollins, whose mere presence is enough to momentarily rob Nicole of breath. One would think he walked in carrying the cure for ennui. Leslie, usually coated in steel, reveals a vulnerable attachment to her adoptive brother, a welcome shift that her portrayer has long championed. Viewers finally glimpse the softness beneath the armor, proving that even the most intimidating characters occasionally indulge in humanity. All this unfolds while the show attempts, with varying success, to moonlight as an after-school special. One day, it's homelessness, the next healthcare reform, and then Martin arrives with his unsolicited civics lecture. The intention may be noble, but soaps traditionally function as escapism, not policy briefings. The audience tunes in for melodrama, not midterm reminders. As for the convoluted moral tally sheet, Ted's infidelity was unequivocally wrong. Leslie and Dana's involvement with a married man was equally indefensible. Eva's existence is the direct product of those decisions, yet she somehow carries the heaviest sentence. Her true misstep lies not in being born, but in aligning herself with her mother's schemes, Tomas included. Still, the venom directed at her far exceeds the crime. If Kat continues to nurture her hostility, the only predictable outcome is that the rest of the family will migrate toward Eva out of sheer exhaustion. Speculation, of course, abounds. Eva discovering a pregnancy, Kat abandoning Tomas, Bill forcing a marriage, Kat soaring off to greener romantic pastures. There are even whispers about potential couplings, Malone with Leslie, Shanice with Ted, a baffling prospect, and the undeniable chemistry between Isaiah and Eva stealing the spotlight. Joey, apparently moonlighting on an entirely different soap, slips into the ensemble as though holding dual citizenship in daytime television. And through it all, Samantha emerges vindicated, proving far more perceptive than previously credited, enough to warrant the prompt return of her confiscated phone, ideally without further negotiation. In short, relationships implode, loyalties shift, moral outrage rotates with the weather, and the show marches on, less a soap opera than a masterclass in dramatic whiplash. Here's what they don't want to admit about this storyline. The villains aren't the villains. The writers are. Samantha's financial crisis achieved the remarkable feat of exposing every wrong confidant in her orbit. Asking Eva for money was an inspired misstep. Chelsea was standing right there, practically waving a checkbook. Meanwhile, Madison's slow fade from the storyline becomes increasingly transparent. Even Isaiah's smile, so bright it could power a small town, collapsed the moment Eva walked away. Clearly, his purpose extends far beyond a conveniently timed new job at the school. Yet somehow, despite this trail of narrative breadcrumbs, there remains a chorus insisting that poor Eva is simply misunderstood. The record shows otherwise. She debuted as her mother's accomplice in dismantling Ted's marriage, performed a brief repentance monologue, then promptly pursued her sister's partner with the determination of someone who learned absolutely nothing. The dalliance that followed only confirmed the point. She helped conceal the assaults on Laura, then moved on to the next available man with whiplash-inducing speed. Courtship, apparently, is a relic best left in museums. Within minutes of meeting him, she was confessing her history of sleeping with her sister's partner, a bold strategy for someone still awaiting a redemption arc. Respect, unsurprisingly, remains elusive. Elsewhere, Samantha delivered the lone moment of clarity by reminding Auntie Kat to stay in her lane. The far more pressing mystery is why a child needs $1,000, an inquiry best answered with caution and perhaps a team of investigators. Speculation continues to swirl. Perhaps June is secretly Barbara's daughter. Perhaps Bill and Haley's endlessly looping storyline could finally be retired. Perhaps Chelsea's supposedly profound romance is considerably less profound than advertised. Vernon even emerges as a plausible challenger to Martin. And in a predictable twist, Kat once again targets Eva with the enthusiasm of someone who considers minding her own business a personal affront. Vanessa, meanwhile, is performing Olympic-level acrobatics over Joey, who remains conspicuously unmoved. The show's attempt to sell his casino empire would benefit greatly from filming an actual casino rather than a room that resembles a converted storage closet. If Shanice and Ted begin a romance, the real competition will not be Ted's affection, but whether Nicole or Leslie feels most threatened. Some theorists now propose that Doug is alive and secretly colluding with Vanessa to bring down Joey Armstrong, a plot twist with just enough plausibility to be dangerous. Nicole, however, stands alone as the episode's diplomatic triumph, handling herself with a grace that deserves applause. Kat, by contrast, could use a geographical reset. A temporary assignment in London or Africa would do wonders for the character's development, and everyone else's patience. The Eva-Cat feud has officially exhausted its shelf life, and Peaches still awaits the dignity of a complete legal name. Eyes rolled nationwide when Nicole cited Eva as part of her motivation for helping Peaches. Naomi's treatment of Derek only adds to the growing list of interpersonal catastrophes demanding attention. Someone, inevitably, missed the episode entirely and sought a recap. The short version, confusion, conflict, and denial remained the reigning monarchs. A situationship was once again misidentified. When a man announces he is committed elsewhere and you are merely friends, the arrangement is not a situationship. It is a one-night stand with extended delusion. And looming over it all is the eventual explosion, Vanessa discovering that Joey may be responsible for Doug's death. When that truth surfaces, the term messy will no longer suffice. Here's what no one wants to admit about fans who scream authenticity. They're often the first to undermine their own actors. The narrative surrounding this show's latest developments offers an unintended masterclass in missing the point. A production built and driven by a predominantly Black creative team, long overdue, fiercely earned, finally delivers the kind of representation audiences have been demanding for years. And what erupts in response? A meltdown over skin tone accuracy, as though actors must arrive pre-assembled in the precise Pantone shade of the characters' imagined parents. Apparently, the long and decorated tradition of performers embodying historical figures with entirely different complexions has been forgotten. Poitiers, Ross, Washington, yes, all evidently figments of collective memory. The self-appointed gatekeepers insist they just want authenticity, though their definition seems suspiciously narrow. Instead of celebrating two young Black actors stepping into meaningful roles, the conversation fixates on melanin logistics. The result? A barrage of complaints that do nothing but jeopardize opportunities for the very performers this audience claims to champion. If the question guiding these outbursts is this comment helpful? The answer is resoundingly obvious. Meanwhile, the storylines themselves march forward with more coherence than the commentary. Anita's scheming, for instance, is poised to implode spectacularly, helpfully strengthening Marcel and Leslie's connection rather than dismantling it. Marcel, blissfully unaware of how neatly he has been maneuvered into a job he'll relish, may even reveal the circumstances of his Winterfest assignment sooner than expected. As for Leslie, the myth that she's incapable of love continues to crumble. Even her critics acknowledge the emotion she directs toward Peaches. The show's romantic trajectories also defy audience predictions. Tomas and Kat, the couple no one placed emotional bets on, are thriving, while the once celebrated Chelsea and Madison skid toward relational ruin. The scoreboard of affection, it seems, respects no fan consensus. Then there is the ongoing debate surrounding Ted. His attempts to salvage his marriage were rebuffed. His ill-timed lapse occurred under heavy intoxication, and he has been cast as the sole villain ever since. Yet Nicole's extracurricular interest in Carlton predates any revelation about Ted's behavior, a detail conveniently omitted by those determined to preserve a single-sided morality tale. The simple truth? Both parties contributed to the unraveling. Ted is flawed, yes, human even, but hardly beyond redemption. His chemistry with Shanice, an underutilized character deserving of more than perpetual emotional stagnation, offers something unexpectedly refreshing. Their quiet elevator moment conveyed more sincerity than some couples manage in entire arcs. If second chances are allowed for some, they should not be revoked for him alone. And still, amid all this, the call for maturity remains most pointedly aimed at Kat, whose lingering petulance continues to test the patience of viewers waiting for her evolution. Peace with Eva would require growth, actual growth, not the performative kind she's perfected. In short, the production advances with ambition and complexity, while parts of the audience cling to grievances that contribute nothing but noise. The work deserves sharper engagement, the cast deserves better, and the discourse desperately needs a higher bar than knee-jerk commentary masquerading as critique. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Naomi isn't the problem. Everyone demanding she sacrifice herself is. Leslie's audacity remains unmatched. Summoning Nicole, of all people, to tend to Peaches would be bold under normal circumstances. In Leslie's universe, it's practically performance art. The only redeeming moment around that chaos was the rare sighting of Madison actually working, an event so infrequent it deserves its own commemorative plaque. Vanessa's late-night confession about still reaching for Doug was touching, if one politely ignores the inconvenient fact that Joey is the one warming the other half of her mattress. Judging from her eagerness to parade him around, Joey must possess talents that defy ordinary explanation. Then came the elevator moment between Shanice and Ted, a pause so heavy it practically came with its own foreshadowing soundtrack. The writers are clearly plotting something, and no one should pretend to be surprised when that accidental brush of hands turns into a full-scale romantic entanglement. Should the sparks actually ignite, the collective reaction will be predictable. Nicole frowning disapprovingly while everyone else plays amateur relationship analyst. Meanwhile, Anita finally called the police on Leslie, an act of public service long overdue. Unfortunately, Malone was spared, though his moral compass is calibrated in the same crooked direction. His eventual fall will be a community affair. Kat continues her tireless workout routine of leaping to conclusions, no gym membership required. Samantha's free clinic will inevitably be built, likely bearing the name of Peaches or Barbara. Depending on whose identity, confusion left the deepest emotional scar. Anita's brief reappearance offered no resolution on that front, but it would have been satisfying to watch the mistaken identity saga finally be put to rest. Nicole showed unusual enthusiasm for the blind date Shanice engineered, suggesting Greg Vaughn's soon-to-appear character may actually stand a chance, which is practically a plot twist on its own. The ongoing criticism of Naomi has reached the point of parody, declaring her a terrible daughter and a deficient wife simply because she refuses to sacrifice her bodily autonomy on command is a stunning display of outdated expectations. Jacob understood their arrangement. He violated it anyway. Yet somehow Naomi is the villain for being human, faltering, and refusing to contort herself into motherhood for someone else's convenience. Her storyline remains one of the few grounded depictions of marital struggle and autonomy, a rare acknowledgement that women exist as people, not vessels for other people's aspirations. Elsewhere, Samantha's diner conversation with Eva offered a surprisingly touching moment. Eva, starved for genuine understanding, soaked up the empathy, while Samantha's later confrontation with Kat delivered the kind of silent, jaw-tightening disappointment that lingers far longer than rage. Nicole's insistence that she spoke to Peaches for Peaches and for Eva revealed that somewhere beneath her armor, she still cares. In a better world, this entire cast would be clearing space on their shelves for next year's Daytime Emmy nominations. Ashley, however, remains committed to making sure compassion never interrupts her victim narrative. Derek may have lied, but his brutal honesty forced her to confront the truth. She proposed from a place of emotional vacancy, and he reacted accordingly. Wrong? Absolutely. But the self-pitying martyr act is unconvincing. One might also inquire whether she is stalking Eva at this point, given her tendency to appear wherever Eva stands still long enough. As for Madison and Chelsea, the cracks are widening. Madison's overreaction du jour hardly justifies the theatrics, but consistency has never been her brand. Anita, Nicole, and Martin share such striking family resemblance that DNA tests feel redundant. Frankly, Martin behaves more like Anita and Vernon's child than half the people claiming blood ties. Elsewhere in town, Samantha earns applause for trying to help June, while the Duprees should start researching restraining order templates, given Leslie's habit of relying on the very people she's tirelessly attempted to obliterate. Andre's meltdown after Haley rattled him was a masterclass in overacting, yet it did highlight one universal truth. He is not nearly as composed as he pretends. Danny and Bill, on the other hand, seem destined for a reunion, and the universe appears ready to oblige. Derek's most promising match is firefighter Cheryl, whose interest is both charming and refreshingly uncomplicated. One can only hope Ashley is not pregnant, if only so she can focus on being a competent nurse without adding another crisis to her roster. And yes, Leslie and Malone eventually pairing up would be poetic. two morally flexible agents of chaos orbiting one another until one inevitably takes the other down. It's practically nature at work. Here's what no one wants to admit about Kat and Chelsea's sudden descent into mean girl purgatory. Nicole once again proves herself the resident voice of reason. No small achievement in a community where Looney inspires far more enthusiasm for eviction than conversation. Sympathy for Peaches is warranted, of course. But then arrives the real plot twist. Dr. Rollins, apparently so striking that Nicole's expression alone becomes a spoiler. One almost applauds the show for introducing a new character simply by letting another character's face do the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, Smitty quietly mentions that he hasn't had many girlfriends, which in soap opera mathematics translates to, a surprise child is waiting in the wings, ready to emerge the moment ratings require it. Kat, ever the fan favorite, manages to derail her own campaign by launching an entirely unnecessary attack on Eva. A simple greeting, perhaps even a measured question, would have spared her both the embarrassment and the impressive feat of lodging her own foot squarely in her mouth. Loyalty to Kat is admirable, but loyalty will not make this misstep any less catastrophic. If she wants even a chance at redemption, it may be wise to pursue the revolutionary concept of professional help. And given the genre, the alleged sibling connection with Tomas may very well vanish the moment the plot calls for a DNA test with dramatic lighting. Chelsea and Kat, once presented as intelligent, ambitious young women, now appear to have been recast as idle, haughty meddlers whose primary occupation is sabotaging the lives of others. If this is character development, it is development in the same way erosion is development: slow, unfortunate, and primarily destructive. Kat's current crusade, while initially rooted in heartbreak, has morphed into an exhausting spectacle. The well-loved refrain that she needs to stop has now expanded into a full chorus. Severing communication with anyone who entertains Eva may bring temporary relief, but it does little to soften the image of someone who cannot stop emoting long enough to form a coherent plan. Elsewhere on the canvas, June's perpetual order mixing has raised suspicions of an underlying issue, something more substantial than the standard soap affliction of selective attention. Her gentle chemistry with Ted is notable, particularly as both share ties to Samantha and Tyrell. The rebuilding of her relationship with her children has been touching, but her inner life remains largely unexplored. Chemistry with Ted, however, is never unexplored for long. Vanessa, still dutifully following Doug's strategic blueprint to secure Joey, deploys every tactic available: charm, vulnerability, selective regret. Yet while Nicole and Danny lecture her on her questionable attachment, one suspects Ted would provide a more patient ear. Their mutual experience with grief could form the basis of a genuinely layered connection, something rare and therefore suspiciously promising. Jan, on the other hand, simply seeks communication, recognition, and respect, an ideal trifecta for Ted, who specializes in all three. Pairing them would produce an entertaining dynamic, especially once Jan's recycled friendship with Leslie Dana gets dragged into the gravitational pull. Pamela, delightful precisely because she resists categorization, should remain unencumbered by Ted or any other stabilizing force. Mona, similarly, could never tolerate the gentler version of Ted currently circulating. Her moral compass and workplace proximity to Nicole would block the match before the first lingering glance. And should all established options fail, the narrative can always rely on the most reliable soap opera solution: an alluring stranger arriving at Orphe Jeans, competing with Ted for the final slice of pie, and igniting a spark strong enough to justify an Eva Mendes cameo. Thus, Ted remains far from romantically deprived. The buffet of possibilities is wide open. The real challenge is deciding which storyline the writers feel like detonating next. Here's what no one wants to admit about Kat's crusade against Eva, and why it makes absolutely no sense. Kat's latest misfire unfolded with almost athletic precision, an Olympic-level leap to the wrong conclusion, powered entirely by her ongoing fixation with Eva. A teenager managed to reduce her grandstanding to rubble in seconds, and Samantha, mercifully, delivered the needed reality check. She reminded Kat that something constructive was finally taking shape, and Kat nearly bulldozed it out of sheer reflex. Even June's thoroughly deserved up-and-down appraisal served as punctuation. Chelsea, meanwhile, continues to treat partnership like an optional hobby. The expectation that she might support the person she's with apparently qualifies as advanced emotional calculus. Her refusal to take a stance resembles immaturity masquerading as neutrality, and the result is as exhausting as her stagnant relationship with Madison. At this point, a clean break would be an act of public service. Andre's aversion to Los Angeles lingers suspiciously in the air, inviting speculation of an unspoken commitment elsewhere, one that looks remarkably like a spouse-shaped obstacle. Back on the battlefield, Kat once again unloaded on Eva without a shred of provocation. Eva simply showed up to support her niece. Kat responded by inflating a minor moment into a personal crusade. The vendetta has long passed its expiration date. Eva is thriving unbothered, while Kat burns calories performing outrage. For her own well-being, she might consider redirecting that energy towards something, anything, less self-destructive. Chelsea would be wise to extract herself from the ongoing circus involving Madison and her mother. Let the duo spin in their own orbit without dragging spectators into the gravitational mess. Elsewhere, Nicole's reaction to her upcoming blind date announced more than any spoiler could, and Derek's path forward seems obvious. Step away from dead ends and toward the firefighter who radiates far more promise. Of course, the saga wouldn't be complete without the nuanced truth no one wants to acknowledge. Kat and Eva can both be wrong at the same time. Kat's self-righteousness grates, but Eva's strategic charm, practiced openly with her mother as co-conspirator, has hardly been subtle. Still, the popular fantasy that Kat is plotting to destroy Eva and Isaiah's relationship remains just that, a fantasy. Kat's indifference is practically audible, provided Eva stays far from Tomas, whose appeal remains a mystery best left unsolved. Any cracks in Isaiah and Eva's relationship will come from Isaiah himself, already scanning the horizon for Haley. The ongoing campaign demanding universal acceptance of Eva could use a destination before the writers drag it into geological time. And speaking of arrivals, the identity of Nicole's blind date appears all but confirmed. The collective gasp will likely be for Greg Vaughn. Finally, should the new Doctor indeed be played by the actor who once portrayed that infamously magnetic officer from Queen Sugar, decorum may not survive the moment. Beyond the Gates spoilers for Thursday, December 4th suggest a big blowout between Samantha Richardson, Catherine "Kat" Richardson, and Chelsea Hamilton, while Leslie Thomas turns to Nicole Dupree for help. There's going to be a flurry of activity in Fairmont Crest during Thursday's show, so let's get into it. First off, Leslie will be dealing with a life-or-death matter, so she'll reach out to Nicole for assistance. Is this about Shanice Johnson and Ted Richardson being stuck in the elevator? Leslie can feel the sparks between her ex and the nurse, which is why she's clashed with Shanice so often lately. Leslie might be desperate to save them, so nothing steamy happens. Then again, her adoptive mom, Peaches, isn't doing well, so perhaps if Leslie can't find Ted to answer her questions, she may turn to Nicole for help. Meanwhile, Chelsea will be a busy bee during BTG's December 4th show. It sounds like she and Kat will have a heated confrontation with Samantha. How badly will Kat and Chelsea lash out at their niece? Samantha threw them under the bus when she got in trouble for making out with Nathan on the family's couch. Samantha implied she got the idea from Kat and Chelsea when she overheard the two having some adult girl talk about their escapades in the bedroom. Martin Richardson lashed out at Kat, and things have never been the same between the siblings because of Samantha's statements, so Kat and Chelsea may give her a piece of their minds. With that said, Chelsea will also deal with some romance issues. She and Dr. Madison Montgomery can't seem to land on the same page where Madison's mom is concerned. Madison wants to break ties with her mother. However, Chelsea feels she should smooth things over. The women will turn to someone unexpected to help them with this conflict. So who will that be across town, beyond the gates? Spoilers for Thursday, December 4th. Note that Anita Dupree will meet up with Elon Hawthorne. The Dupree matriarch will request some police assistance. So what's this about? She may need help with keeping Leslie at bay. But as Winterfest is starting on Friday, December 5th, their talk could center around security for the big event, too. Beyond the Gates spoilers hint that the Thursday, December 4th episode will be filled with fun, shocking moments and a ton of chaos, so fans will have to tune in to see the direction certain storylines take. Anita wants Elon to disappear Leslie, or at least put her on a short leash. Either way, she'll pay any off-duty officers to play security at Winterfest. Elon offers up Marcel, who's happy to take the job. And the pay. Leslie, meanwhile, tries filling Peaches with holiday cheer, but it's not working. And Peaches doesn't even think the clinical trial is worth it. She's dying no matter what. Leslie pulls Peaches' doctor aside to ask for help, and he suggests therapy. Back in her office, Carlton cancels on Nicole for Winterfest because of a family emergency. As she's moping, Shanice drops in and, sympathizing, offers up a blind date. Nicole's not so sure, but the proactive nurse gets the ball rolling behind Nicole's back while the doc thinks it over. Next up, Anita visits full of her own cheer, but Nicole goes all wet blanket, bringing Carlton's cancellation up. She assures her mom they're just friends. Then the two get down to Anita's newly released test results. Luckily, they're okay, or the ladies would be in an even worse mood when Leslie shows up pounding on the door. She begs Nicole to hear her out and to help Peaches. It has to be Nicole. No one's better than her, and whatever Nicole thinks of Leslie, Peaches is good. Tomas and Kat are gushing over their getaway over lunch. Madison just wants to fight with Chelsea over Thanksgiving and siding with her mom. Tomas tries calming things, but when Chelsea asks Kat for her opinion, her sis decides to book it. The ladies fight some more, so Tomas decides it's time for him to run off. Once he's gone, Madison boils it all down to, this proves Chelsea doesn't trust her. Madison's been in lockstep with Chelsea and all her family drama, but she won't do the same. Eva shows up at Orphe Jeans, called there by Samantha, who needs help. Actually, she needs money. A lot of money. She whips out her free clinic proposal and note cards for Eva to go over. It's impressive enough that Eva promises to talk to her mom for some cash. As they're giggling away, Kat shows up and launches straight into a tirade against Eva. Samantha's defense falls on deaf ears, so Eva takes the high road and leaves. Kat's all condescending, so Sam tells her off. Apparently, Leslie got through, because the next thing we know, Leslie's introducing Peaches to Nicole. Peaches tells Nicole she doesn't need or want therapy. Nicole's candid about how she feels about Leslie, then reassures Peaches that she deserves this trial. Just like that, it works. Nicole calls Leslie back in, who's been catching up with Eva, and tells them the good news. Chelsea sends out an SOS to Anita, who shows up to get a rundown of her and Madison's problems. I hate to tell you, sweetheart. This one? You played all wrong. Oop! Anita tells her granddaughter about first meeting Vernon's family and learning to take family cues and trust Vernon in how he interacts with his family. All Chelsea has to do is sympathize and trust Madison. As Nicole's heading out, Shanice tells her that the blind date guy is all ready to go. Just then, Shanice greets a Dr. Rollins, and Nicole turns around to smile at him. Beyond the Gates spoilers for Friday, December 5th hint at some bombshells ahead in Fairmont Crest. Winterfest begins, and a special guest arrives, while Anita Dupree has shocking news. Plus, Tomas Navarro has a major question to ask. Learn more about what's set to unfold on the Friday show below. Beyond the Gates spoilers for Friday, December 5th suggest that Winterfest will begin. Beverly Hills Damone Roberts, famous for his eyebrow stylings and products, will appear as a special guest on the CBS soap that day and help the Dupree family prepare for the big event. In other news, Leslie Thomas will work overtime to ensure that Eva Thomas and Ted Richardson enjoy a magical night at the big gala. But what kind of extreme measures will she take to ensure this happens? Meanwhile, Anita will make a stunning announcement at Winterfest. So what could this be about? It might be news about the Articulates or information about how much the event has raised, so fans will have to tune in to find out. Elsewhere, Beyond the Gates spoilers for Friday reveal that Tomas will have an awkward run-in with Ted, which will prompt him to ask Catherine, Kat Richardson, a big question. Will the lawyer propose to Kat? Bill Hamilton did tell Tomas that he wants all his partners to have stable personal lives, and Tomas would love nothing more than to become a partner at the firm. So, will Tomas ask Kat to marry him for all the wrong reasons? Finally, Jacob Hawthorne will issue a warning to Isaiah Hawthorne. What could this be about? Will he warn him about his impending romance with Eva, or possibly his flirty friendship with Haley Hamilton? Beyond the Gate spoilers suggest that the land of Fairmont Crest offers drama, intrigue, with some campy Febreze fun, and now the soap opera has been recognized as one of the best shows in 2025. CTS has the scoop on this, below. As fans approach the final weeks of 2025, it's natural to see a ton of top lists for this year, all across the web. Entertainment Weekly recently released its 10 Best TV Shows of 2025, and the new CBS soap made its top 10 list. In fact, it was the only daytime drama that hit the list. In EW's synopsis of why Beyond the Gates was rated one of the top television shows of this year, they highlighted storylines like Leslie Thomas ruining Ted Richardson's and Nicole Dupree's marriage by revealing their decades-old affair, and love child Eva Thomas, as well as the steamy romance between Danny Dupree and Andre Richardson. In addition, Martin Richardson's violent secret from his past was also mentioned. BTG's creator and head writer, Michelle Valjean, hopped on the social media platform X and reposted EW's Best TV Shows of 2025 article. She added the following message: "Very cool actually, Michelle. It's always nice being acknowledged in this regard, and we here at CTS might be a bit biased, but we couldn't agree more. Beyond the Gates is simply fun, fantastic, and phenomenal. If this is what their first season in 2025 can accomplish, we can't wait to see what 26 and Season 2 bring, the Friday, December 5th. Spoilers for Beyond the Gates focus on Winterfest and all the drama, plot twists, and game-changing moments that come with it. Look for Anita to make a shocking moment. Leslie does whatever it takes to make this a magical night for Eva. And Tomas has a potentially life-changing question for Kat. We're all about to find out exactly what Anita, Laura, and the rest of the Duprees have been feverishly planning for the last few weeks. Winterfest begins, and with it comes special guest, beauty expert, Damone Roberts, who helps the Duprees prepare for the event. What drama will go down at Winterfest? Hopefully, the secret involving Vernon and Sharon will be revealed at the holiday charity gala. Who knows what Leslie's presence will stir up? Additionally, Kat will likely take offense at Eva showing up as Ted's +1. But it's all going to kick off with Anita making a shocking announcement. Just how shocking are we talking? Could this be related to the health crisis mentioned in a recent BTG holiday preview? Leslie, who bulldozed her way onto the planning committee for Winterfest, has an extra incentive for being there. Obviously, now that she's filthy rich and has a house in Fairmont Crest, she feels she should be there. Second, the charitable aspect of the evening was inspired by her mother, Barbara. And now that Leslie is a part of the festivities, she wants to do everything in her power to give her daughter a magical night with her dad. Tomas also takes the festive opportunity to do something big. After an awkward run-in with Ted, Toms has a major question for Kat. Will he pop the question? It could be a moving-in thing or a marriage thing. Tomas probably can't get that recent conversation with Bill out of his head. The one about wanting the partners and employees at his firm to be family-oriented, which could also be interpreted as being marriage-minded. Is this what's about to happen? In other news, Jacob issues a warning to his brother. If this isn't about their family drama, this could be about Isaiah's relationship with Eva. After all, getting close to Eva means her mother, Leslie, is in the picture, and that could bring about a level of drama he may soon regret.